You just turned vague instructions into categorical criteria and handled a distrusted category by disabling it, a precision decision, not surrender. Now we move to batch processing strategy, because once your criteria are solid, you need to decide what belongs in a batch and how to handle failures in first pass yield. By the end of this module, you can decide what belongs in a batch and handle batch failures and first pass yield. Here is how this module builds up. Latency tolerance assessment is a filter you apply before choosing the batch API. You ask, can this workflow tolerate an unknown wait of up to 24 hours without blocking a user or a downstream system? It's not about how fast batches usually finish, it's about the fact that there is no latency SLA at all. The distinction people get wrong is designing around the best case, thinking it usually takes an hour, so I'll poll and it will be fine. That builds a blocking workflow on a promise the API never made. Without this assessment, you get production failures that are hard to debug. Imagine a pre-merge check moved to batch. A developer pushes code, and the check sits in a queue for 6 hours because of a backlog. The developer is blocked, the pipeline stalls, and you have no SLA to lean on when you call support. The cost is not just latency, it's lost trust in the system. The alternative of building a timeout fallback to real-time seems clever, but it adds complexity that breaks under edge cases. The simple rule, batch only what can wait, prevents all of this. Let's work the pre-merge check case. A developer pushes code and waits for the check to pass before merging. That's a blocking workflow, a human is stalled. The batch API offers no latency SLA, so the check could take minutes or hours. The alternative of batching it with a timeout fallback to real-time is rejected because it's complicated, and the exam prefers the proportionate fix. The overnight technical debt report, on the other hand, has no one waiting. It can tolerate the full 24-hour window, so it's a natural fit for batch. For the SLA arithmetic, if results must be delivered within 30 hours and batch processing can take 24, you submit at least every 6 hours. The other cases are on the page. The durable rule, batch only what can wait. The deciding property is the absence of a latency SLA, not the typical speed. If a workflow blocks a user or a downstream system, keep it synchronous. Never batch an agent that makes multi-turn tool calls, the API simply doesn't support it. And when you calculate how often to submit, use the worst case, a 24-hour processing window plus your accumulation window must fit inside the total SLA. Designing around the best case, it usually finishes in an hour, is the mistake that creates fragile systems. On the exam, expect a question that offers batch with a real-time fallback on timeout. It's wrong for being complicated, not impossible. The exam consistently prefers the simpler design that matches each API to its natural workload. Another common distractor is designing a blocking workflow around the average batch speed, thinking you can poll and it will be fine. Remember, there is no latency SLA, so building a synchronous process on a best-case assumption is a trap. This is testcraft. Recognize the pattern and choose the proportionate fix. Custom ID correlation is the practice of assigning a unique identifier to every request in a batch, so you can match responses to their originals even when results arrive out of sequence. It is not a workaround for a broken system, it's the intended design. The distinction people get wrong is thinking batch processing is unreliable because order isn't preserved. In reality, custom ID makes order a non-issue, and avoiding batching because of it is a costly mistake. Without custom ID correlation, a batch failure becomes a blind guess. You don't know which of the 100 documents caused the errors, so your only option is to resubmit the entire batch, paying twice, waiting another full processing cycle, and still risking the same failures. In production, that means blown SLAs, wasted compute, and a process that doesn't scale. With correlation, you surgically remove the failures, fix them, and resubmit only what's necessary. That's the difference between a brittle pipeline and a resilient one. Let's work through the 9 documents that exceeded the context limit. You pull their custom IDs from the batch response, then for each one, you split the original document into chunks that fit within Claude's context window. You create new batch requests with those chunks, using the same custom ID so you can track the retry. The alternative, resubmitting the original oversized documents unchanged, would fail again for the same reason. Resubmitting the entire batch of 100 is even worse. You'd pay for 88 documents that already succeeded, and you'd still have the same 9 failures. The other failure type, the 3 validation errors, requires a different fix, correcting the input data or the schema, but the correlation and selective resubmission pattern is identical. The rest of the cases are on the page. The durable rule is, every batch request gets a unique custom ID, you test your prompt on a small sample before scaling, and you never resubmit successes. The reason you reject resubmitting the whole batch isn't just cost, it's that you lose the learning opportunity. By isolating failures, you improve your pipeline. And you reject avoiding batching because of ordering concerns, because custom ID makes order irrelevant. That's the practice that holds true whether you're building a compliance system next year or processing research data tonight. In the exam, the most common trap is the statement that batch results come back out of order, so you should use real-time calls instead. That's wrong. Custom ID exists exactly to handle ordering. The test will also check whether you know to resubmit only failures, not the whole batch. This is testcraft. They want to see if you understand the operational cost of naive batching versus the efficiency of targeted failure handling. Let's lock in the key points. First, keep your batch logic simple. Complex fallbacks often create more problems than they solve. Second, when results arrive out of order, rely on custom ID to map them back correctly. And finally, track first-pass yield to see how many items succeed without any retries. That's what you need to design robust batch processing.